Welcome back everyone. Today we'll be doing the final deep dive of the React web chat application. The last couple of deep dive videos shows the login and logout feature and then the invite friend feature. Today we'll be discussing the chat feature, so let's get to it. First off, I have the Keycloak server started. I have the Java web application also running on a local Apache Tomcat server, and I also have the React chat app running. So you can see here this console, this is the Keycloak output of it running. Here's the React application running, and also have my Java backend app running, as you can see here. And if I go over to the web browsers here, you can see that here is the React app that's running. Here you can see the Keycloak login page for, the Keycloak admin console. And here's just the output when I'm running the Java app. If you recall, in the last video, we did a friend request that was accepted. Now that person accepted the invite from us to join the site, so now that person is our friend. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and log in now, and I have breakpoints set up to show you exactly how we access the friend that actually accepted our invite. So let me go ahead and log into the React application. I have some breakpoints here from the previous video that let me just unselect. So let me go ahead and log in with my normal primary user. And you can see it gets into this function called getAcceptedFriends, which is going to create a form data object. So if I step through this, it's going to get the user's Keycloak ID, and you can see this is 00A02470. That's the user that I'm logged in as, which is test user 1. And just to show you where this comes from, if you go to the Keycloak admin console, you can see I'm here as test user 1, and my user ID is the same ID here. So in the React application, when I'm extracting the Keycloak subject ID, or should I say subject, which is the user ID, that's what it is. And you can see here, this is going to send a HTTP request to the Java backend to the getFriends list servlet. So let's go ahead and skip through this. And this is going to hit the breakpoint in the Java application. And if we scroll through here, this user Keycloak ID, this is just going to parse out the user Keycloak ID that was sent in the React application. So if I just kind of hit a breakpoint here at the end and go through, you're going to see that this is exactly what was sent from the React app, which is my unique Keycloak ID. And where this is useful is that we're going to use that in the next method here called getFriendsList, which is going to do a SQL query into the database where it's going to check for every invite where the user accepted it. And how we can tell is by this accepted equals true. So we're going to create this SQL statement, and we're going to see who returned or what gets returned. And you can see here that the first thing that was returned is this Gmail account, which if you remember from the previous video, that was the email that was used to send an invite request to. So this gets all the way through here. This array list of friends, which right now is just one, gets put into a JSON object, which gets sent back to the React application. So if we go back over here, we can get back into this response here. And you can see from the JSON response, we have an array of size 1, and it's just that email that was showed before. And this setState method is going to get invoked, where it's going to put this array into the state variable existing friends, and we're going to set this getFriendList to true. Okay, now that we have the existing friends set, I'll show you where that's actually very important here. So in the render method of this React class, you can see here I have this variable letRendered autocomplete HTML exist, and we actually go through, or we extract the existing friends from the class, and we set it to a local object array which has this format title equals and then the existing friends, and then that gets put into another array, which, as you can see here, this friends object array, it gets passed into as a prop this other component called free solo create option version 3. So this is a autocomplete feature that I have where we pass in a list of friends into it. So as soon as this GUI component shows up on the screen and I start typing something, it'll actually autocomplete and show me what are the available options that I have. So in order to see this, we actually have to go ahead and click on this add here because I have no existing chat groups. And now here's the autocomplete function. So if I go in here, you can see that I actually do have an entry here, which is that Gmail friend that I accepted or that I sent an invite to and they accepted. So I can go ahead, click here, and if I click on save, you're going to see this function gets invoked, this handle group add. So if I just kind of search for this in the render method, you can see over here there is this text for adding somebody, and then you can see that on the on click it invokes this handle group add. So I typed in somebody, I then clicked on the add, and then this function gets invoked. So if we go back to where this function gets invoked, we can see here it's going to go ahead and this is going to, let's just see here, let's just step through. This is going to get the list of friends that we have, and it's going to go ahead and sort them alphabetically, and the list of friends is going to include, you know, the friend that accepted, and then it's going to include myself because I'm going to be part of this chat group. So you can see here that we have VA Web Designs and this Bach923. And so if we go ahead and step over that, now it's sorted alphabetically. And this is going to go ahead and check to see if there's any saved chat group that has exact same members, because we don't want to go ahead and create a chat group if this group already exists, which we don't have any right now. So it'll step through here. And over here, we're going to go ahead and create a new form data object, and it's going to create it's going to populate it with two different items. One is going to be the list of friends in this chat group, and this other one is going to be the chat group owner, which actually, you know, this is something I thought I was going to need, but I actually don't use this at all. So this is going to be basically ignored by the Java servlet. And if we scroll here and step into this function, it's going to call send create chat group, and you're going to see it's going to basically do this HTTP request again to the Java backend. So let me go ahead and make sure I have a breakpoint into the create group chat servlet. So let's go here, create group chat. There's a breakpoint already there. So if I just keep scrolling through, it's going to send a request. We get here. This first method is going to just extract the data from the request. So I have a breakpoint here. Let me just make sure I have one at the end just in case. And you can see that I have the group chat members, which is those two emails that you saw, and the group chat owner, which again is not actually used at all other than just extracting it here. So we can ignore that for now. Or we can just ignore it, period. So now there is a function that basically checks to also make sure that this doesn't exist. And it doesn't exist right now. And now we're going to do a safeguard check just to make sure it was able to extract, you know, those two fields from this first function over here. And it was able to extract everything. And now we're going to go ahead and call this create group chat method, which, just like before, we're going to go ahead and make a SQL statement where we're going to create a new record into the user chat groups table. And this is going to include the date that this was created, the group members, and the group owner. And it's also going to return an ID, and which is basically going to be the auto-generated unique ID for this group chat. So let's go ahead and just step through. Again, the group chat owner is not something that's actually used, so we can ignore that field. And you can see we did execute update, and it actually did return something. One row was affected. So we're going to go ahead and create this JSON response and basically say that this was a success and we were able to insert at least one row. Now we need to extract the chat ID for this new group chat, and this is going to return 95. So if we actually go back to the SQL database here, and if I go to the user chat groups and I just say view all rows, you can see that the latest one that was created has the ID 95, and here are the two members of the new chat group. And we're going to go ahead and also return the chat group ID. And we just send it back to the React application. Let me make sure I have a breakpoint handling the response back, which I do have over here. So okay, let's go ahead and skip through that. Alright, let's go ahead and see. Something weird happened there. I guess I didn't hit the breakpoint for the demo there. Or maybe I stepped in too much. But you can see here now I have this group chat ID. Or I should say this group chat here. Now at this point I can actually start chatting with this other user. So first thing we got to do is just select this group chat, and now you can see that this is populated here. So now if I type something here, this is going to get sent to this specific group. So if I go ahead and open up another browser, Chrome, and let me log in as the new user, and it's going to call the get friends list. Let me unselect that. The get friend list actually does get called periodically just to make sure we have the latest friends that the user has. And let's see, we can go ahead and delete these couple here, these first. I'll get to this in a little bit. I just want to show you something kind of just a current chat right now. So now I'm logged into user 4, and you can see here I also have this saved chat group that was created by the other user. So now if I select here, then as mentioned before, we can start chatting between each other. So before doing that, let me make sure that I have the breakpoint set up, and there's going to be two things that I'm going to have to set the breakpoints for. One for get latest messages and post message servlet. So this post message servlet is going to be invoked once you submit a chat, and this get latest messages is something that gets periodically called just to get all of the latest chats to display to the user's GUI. So if I go here and let me go to, let's see here, let's see post message, let's see which function is associated to that. And we can see here it is a submit message. So if I go to submit message, I have a breakpoint there, perfect. I'm going to make sure I have a breakpoint over in the post message servlet. And here we go. And let me go ahead and just type something. So let me just put hello there. And now it hits the breakpoint here. And now if we scroll through, we just make sure that we can extract the value of the chat. And then we're going to go ahead and create this form data object where we're going to send the message that was just typed in. We're going to specify the group chat that was selected. We're going to specify the group members and the group ID. So if you remember this 95, that's actually something that was returned once I created the create chat group. And when you select on any one of these chat groups, and right now there's only one, we'll extract the chat group ID from that. And now that we have this form data object, we actually check to make sure that the keycloak object, once we logged in, is still valid, so that we can extract the user's ID. And we're going to go ahead and put that into the form data object. And now we're going to go ahead and do this post message servlet, which we just got over here. So if I just kind of jump in here, we're going to call this function just extract data from request. And here is just going to return or just parse the data from the servlet request object. So I have a breakpoint here, so let me just skip through here. You can see at this point I was able to extract the chat group ID 95, chat group members, and the keycloak user ID, and the actual message. Right, here we go. Message here. Hello there. So now let's step through this. We're able to extract the data, at which point now we're going to call this post message method, where it's going to insert into a group messages table, and it's going to include the user message, the user ID of the person who posted the message, the group ID that this is going to be going to. And now let's go ahead and just step through, and we can see we did execute update, and it was able to return a value of 1, so 1 row was affected, which is good. This is what we want. So now that that was done, we're going to just populate this JSON response object to indicate that it was successful and that the message was posted. So let me go ahead and make sure we have a breakpoint to handle the response back from here. So let me put a breakpoint here, and let's just skip through. So now if we go back to the Java object or React application, looks like the breakpoint got hit here. So it's just funky. Maybe I got to clear like something just to make it more clear. But yeah, let's just do F10 for now. Let's skip through. Okay. Wasn't able to show you the rest of the breakpoints because again, maybe just the browser cache just needs to be cleared. But you can see once I posted that, you can see that in this group messages box, I actually see the hello there, and you can see who this is from and the timestamp of the message. So I'm logged in as test user 1. This is just telling me that I typed into this group chat saying hello there. But if I go to the other browser here and I make sure that I have selected this, okay, now so if I go to the other browser here where I'm logged in as test user 4, you can see I selected this chat group. You can see that this is displaying the same message that was displayed on the other screen. But since I'm also part of this chat group, I'm going to see what the other user posted. So I'm just going to be like, let me respond. Hey. And it's going to get this post message servlet. So we already saw what happens. So let's go ahead and just kind of skip through. And you can see now the chat group has this hey there. And if I go to the other page where I'm logged in as test user 1, you can see hey here. And how this is done is that there is a function called get latest messages. So let me go ahead and open up that. Okay, here we go. You can see we hit this breakpoint because again, this is something that's periodically called. So first part is to just make sure that the user is still logged in and that the user actually selected a chat group here, because we don't want to do any SQL requests on the back end if the user is not actually selecting a chat group. So we can see that we did select chat group 95. And now it's going to create this other form data object, which is basically going to say it's going to be populated with the group members and the group ID. And this is going to go to the back end, you see, to another server called get latest messages. So let me make sure I have a breakpoint there. And let's just step through this. Oops, I think I did a refresh on the page. Okay, so here's get latest messages. It gets over here. So first thing we're going to do is extract the chat group, so which is going to parse out the data. So again, there's a chat group members and a group ID. Let me put a breakpoint over here. And you can see chat group ID is 95 and the group members, or the two emails that we saw before that's part of this group. So now that we have that, we're just going to do a check to make sure we was able to extract what we needed to extract. And we're going to go ahead and call this get messages method, which is going to do this query here where it's going to basically select everything from group messages where the chat group ID equals and then the chat ID that we saw that was passed in. And we're going to do an order by message ID, and we're just going to return at most 4 messages at a time. So we're going to go here and we're going to use this chat group ID. So as you noticed, we did actually extract the chat group members, but it's not part of this query, so we could probably ignore that as it's not actually used. And now you can see here that it does get something, and it's going to be populating in this message data object, which if we go here to the variables, actually, let me just go here, yeah. You can see we're getting the message ID, which is hey, and you can see who it's from, which chat group this is from, and it gets all of the relevant messages. So you can see it's coming through 2 times, so this is going to be put into a data array, and it's going to just return this back. So let's go ahead and step through. It's going to populate this JSON response, and it's going to send it back to the React app. So let's unselect that. Again, this gets called periodically by the front-end application, so this is going to get hit, so I'm going to take away the breakpoints there. Let me undo this. This is my mistake. I did F5 to refresh here. So let's just go here. So yeah, it's going to step in here this time because since I refreshed, now there's no chat group that's actually selected. So let's just skip through this. Let's go ahead and click here. Alright, so this time it should pass this if check. Great. Let me make sure I put a breakpoint on the return. Alright, so now you can see here we're getting the response back from the Java servlet. We can see we're extracting a success because we're able to get the latest messages. And now we're going to return the messages to this local variable, messages from database. And you can see here, I'm going to, format or create this variable called formatted content, where basically displaying the username of the person who created the message, the timestamp, and the actual message itself. So if I scroll over here to the right a little bit more, you'll see this. And then I'm going to just put these dashes to kind of distinguish each message as being their own message. And then this formatted content is going to be put into a chat group messages variable, and this is going to be invoked in the set state, which means the render function is going to be invoked. Let me just take the breakpoints away from this method. And you can see that this text field is what's getting populated now. So if we scroll back down, we notice that the text the formatted text gets set to this class variable chat group messages. So if we go here to the render method, so here's the render method, and you can see that we have this text area called chat history, which is this text box here, and the value is set to the chat group messages, which we saw gets populated on the get latest messages method. Now, one other feature I want to show is how a user can remove himself from the chat. And the way to do so is, if I actually look over here on the group chat here, you can see at the very end there is a DEL for delete. So if that is actually selected, it's going to invoke code where it will remove the user from the chat. And if we look here at the render method, you can see here, here's a variable saved chat groups HTML. So this variable is going to be what's going to contain the code to actually display this to the GUI. And you can see here, this is going to be a list, which has, the key is the group ID. And then you can see here, if we go more to the end, there is this span that contains this DEL text, which stands for delete. And it's going to invoke the handle delete group version 2 function. So let's go ahead and click on this DEL method, or delete text. You can see it's going to get into this handle delete group version 2. It's going to go ahead and update the chat group to delete to the group ID. And then on the callback, it's going to invoke this handle dialog open. So let's actually go ahead and put a breakpoint there as well. And let's go through the code. So this is going to just log a couple of things. This is going to assign the group ID to the chat group to delete variable. And then it's going to invoke this handle dialog open. And this is going to set the open delete dialog variable to true. And that open delete dialog variable is important because if you look here in the render method again, we have this component called alert dialog. And this has a parameter open dialog, which is set to the Boolean value of open delete dialog. So it's passed in as a prop here. And this is an existing component that I got off the web that I can show you what the, let me see here actually. Let me show you what the actual package is. This is most likely from this movie material package. Anyways, once this variable is set to true, the inner workings of the alert dialog component is going to actually just invoke it to come up. So if I go ahead and just kind of scroll through, you're going to see this text. Are you sure you want to delete the chat group? And it's going to list out the users or the emails that are in this chat group. Now, this code here shows that it's going to be deleted, but I have it hooked up to a server on the back end where it just basically removes the user from the chat group. So it doesn't actually go ahead and delete it. So I just wanted to kind of throw it out there. So if I go ahead and select confirm delete, and you can see here there is a field called confirm delete in this alert dialog component, and there is a handle confirm deletion that is assigned to it. So if I go there, let's go to that method. There's a breakpoint here, perfect. So if I go ahead and select confirm delete, it's going to hit this breakpoint. I'm going to call the function to close the dialog, which basically takes it away from the screen. And as usual, I'm going to be creating a form data object where I'm going to specify the user that I want to remove. And well, firstly, it's going to specify the chat group that I want to make this removal call to. And I'm going to include the person's email that I want to remove. And then you can see here it's making a HTTP request to a server called remove from chat group. So let me go ahead and just step through this. Now we get into remove from chat group. You can see one of the first things that it does is call this extract data. And let's go ahead and skip to the end here. And you can see that it was able to extract the chat group ID that we want to remove the user from, and then the user's email as well. So if we scroll through and we just do a safeguard check to make sure that we were able to extract these values, and then we're going to invoke this remove user from group. So once again, we're going to make a query into the database, and we're going to go ahead and select group members from the user chat groups where ID equals, and in this case 95. So we're going to get the list of group members. So now we have group members. So if it isn't false, meaning if it contains actual information, we're going to go ahead and remove the person's email that we want to remove from this group. So you can see right now group members contains the Yahoo and the Gmail account, and if I keep stepping through, we're going to see that it's just going to contain that one user, so no longer both. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and update the user chat groups and set the group members to what it is, which is minus that other user, where the ID of the chat group equals, and then in this case it's 95, because that is the unique ID of this specific chat group. So let's go ahead and execute it. We're going to see that rows affected is 1, so we were able to successfully do this update. And we're going to call this other method called handle exited member column. And we're going to check to see that column if there's anything there, and right now there isn't. So if that's the case, we're going to go ahead and update this exited members to be the user email that we wanted to remove, which is the Yahoo one. And now we're going to call this SQL update statement to basically set a exited members column to the user that just got removed. And we're going to see that we were able to successfully make the update. Now we're going to close out our resources here. And now we're going to go ahead and exit out of this. And now this is going to respond back to the GUI. Make sure we have a breakpoint to handle the response back, which we do. Okay, here we have the response back for the deletion, or in this case removing the user. And you can see that the status was successful. Now we're going to go ahead and update the saved group chats to go ahead and remove the group that I just removed myself from. And you can see now my friends group is set to 0, and that's going to be set to, I should say the length is 0, which means it's empty, and now that's going to be saved to the saved chat groups object array, which again, that variable is what's representing each of these saved chat groups. I'm going to go ahead and call these set state methods. And there we go. Now you can see that I no longer have any more chat groups because I only created one, and even though I had a couple of messages back and forth, I decided to remove myself from that group. Okay, that's it guys. Thanks for watching. I know I skipped over a lot of it, but I wanted to show you how the code works with breakpoints and hope that it made it easier to understand. As usual, if you like what you saw, do consider liking the video and subscribing to get more content. See you on the next video.